And as Dr. McHale said, he set the stage for us and thinking about what this triangle, what this triad really needs to look like to be child focused. But there are lots of folks out there who are working to engage parents to help them to have better relationships so that they can work with their children. And we're going to hear more about that today. And just like we did yesterday, we're going to begin with hearing from the fathers. And then we are joined today, who will moderate the next panel, by my friend and colleague, Jessica Pearson, who runs the Center for Policy Research in Colorado. And she has recently co-edited a book on fathers and programs to better serve fathers that she'll tell you a bit about. And we'll hear from our distinguished panelists. And again, we encourage you to join the conversation, to ask questions in the chat, and we'll make sure that those are addressed as much as we possibly can. And then after the panel today, this is going to be your opportunity to join the conversation in real time. And I'll tell you more about our breakout sessions later, but just wanted to tee that up. So at this point, we're going to transition into our panel on co-parenting, and I invite you to watch this video of a few fathers.
Fatherhood program, it was great because with co-parenting skills that I learned from the class was, apologies about that. Like one main I learned that really stuck with me is just like the communication and how important it is for communication, because as a parent, you need to know that both children need both parents. So it is very important for one parent and the other parent to have a communication, at least understanding, and because the comprehension makes communication worthwhile. And I learned that through the fatherhood class, and I didn't know how important that was. The technique they taught us in the class was it was basically like, it's like in the communication level, you allow her to speak and you allow her to tell you how she feels. And sometimes you have to put yourself and your own feelings to the side. You allow her to express how she feels, and because the main focus is you want to get out all the other stuff, all the anguish and all the anger, so that way you can get on the basis of what really matters, and that's the children. Because at one point before the program, like, our communication skills is zero. And like I was saying, the techniques I learned as a father, it's very important because not one parent is greater than the other in a child's life. Being a father is very important, just as well as being a mother is just important. A child needs both. So you guys want to make sure you guys put all feelings to the side and put your main focus that really matters, and that's the children.
One of the things was to be open, to always be open, because like when she's screaming and yelling and things are tough for her, one of the strategies was to kind of listen and set some things, because I wasn't used to just really just listening. It's my way or the highway. And through the fatherhood program, one of the things that it taught me was, first thing, to be able to listen, and then try to understand where my wife or my baby mom was coming from, and then we could try to figure out a solution. If not a solution, maybe we could try to pick a better atmosphere or another time to revisit the conversation, and that helped me out a lot. To me, that's important, to be able to have your mom and your dad in your life, and us as being fathers, it's important for us, man, that we be in our kids' life.
Hello, I'm Jessica Pearson. I'm delighted to be here. Thank you very much, Cynthia, for the kind invitation to moderate this panel. And Jamie, it was good to hear your presentation and all the great things you're up to. I want to start off for a few moments telling you about a new book that I've co-edited with Jay Fagan, just published. Next slide. It's called New Research on Parenting Programs for Low-Income Fathers. And we feature 13 studies of the 20 studies we funded as part of the Fatherhood Research and Practice Network. We also funded 11 states to do policy engagement planning activities to improve father engagement in state programs and policies. And we highlighting 13 studies in the book. Next slide, it shows you a picture of the book. And if you do choose to get the book, please use the discount code FLR40. It'll help a little bit with the pocketbook. It's still a pricey number. I don't get to call the shots on that. Next slide tells you 4 areas that we feature in the book. We have our 13 studies can be grouped in that. We look at elements of effective fatherhood programs. We look at co-parenting and mother engagement. We look at the issue of using new media and internet technologies and cell phones. And finally, we look at fatherhood policy and program sustainability. Next slide, I'm going to tell you about the section that deals with mother engagement and co-parenting. And there are 3 studies in this that we feature. One is a qualitative study, and it looks at some of the barriers to engaging mothers. We know that mother engagement is a key, and key to father participation, with non-resident father participation with children. And so this study outlines some of the challenges that programs will face in trying to engage mothers. Relationship pain, lack of contact between the parents, distrust of fatherhood programs who are seen as being aligned with fathers, and the lack of sufficient staff effort to engage them. It takes work. Next, we have 2 studies that really look at efforts to engage mothers, and that have been fairly successful. In a project that I did with Jay Fagan, we achieved 50% of the mothers that were targeted did participate in a co-parenting intervention. It was engaging mother intervention by NFI, and we found that mothers who were participating in these programs, it demonstrated over 3 months after the program ended, less conflict, more co-parenting. They expressed more empathy, and this was corroborated by fathers who said there was less undermining. Armin Perry did a similar study. It was actually a randomized control trial where he assigned 153 mothers randomly to treatment and control group. All of these mothers were the parenting co-partners of men who were involved with fatherhood programs, and they too, they attended a single session on co-parenting, and 3 months after, they too demonstrated less conflict, found more satisfaction with the co-parenting relationship, and more success in their collaboration on parenting. Finally, in this book, there's a chapter in co-parenting section that deals with domestic violence, because safety is so vital, and it focuses on how facilitators can engage fathers in more effective domestic violence prevention and education initiatives, and how they can adopt a framework that combines empathy with accountability. So if you're hankering for more information on co-parenting, check out those chapters. And that's, and now let's go on to the rest of the panel. Today's panel focuses on teaching co-parenting skills and supporting healthy co-parenting. And we are going to discuss how fatherhood programs can do that, what their experiences have been. And we have two presenters. They're each going to start off by taking a few minutes to talk about their programs and give you an overview about how they do address co-parenting. We're going to start off with Don Mansfield, who is a co-parenting seminar leader for NewDay services, and that focuses on in Northeast Texas. So, Don, why don't you start and tell us about NewDay?
Okay, thank you. Like Jessica said, my name is Don Mansfield. I work for NewDay Services for Children and Families. I've been there getting ready to start my 18th year. NewDay has two programs for co-parenting. We have a short program that is a one-time 4-hour family stabilization class that mostly receives its referrals from the family courts through people who are experiencing family breakup. The other program is a 10-week class that meets once per week for 2 hours at a time that engages parents out of the Child Protective Services programs and out of the family courts when they're experiencing family breakup, also through the Attorney General system when parents are experiencing trouble with that. We focus on a couple of assumptions. First of all, both parents are important in the life of the child. The understanding of that is basic and paramount to the way we approach things. Both parents are important. We look at the idea that co-parenting is a relationship, and in that co-parenting process, understanding how a relationship works and hitting at the heart of the relationship of a father is very important, and understanding that if they try to control anything besides themselves, that relationship becomes unhealthy and destructive. When somebody feels threatened, when they feel like they're not being heard, the tendency is to try to control things they can't control. When they do that, they damage themselves, they damage their children, and they damage the relationship with that other person they're trying to co-parent with. We work on that. We look at that. What can you control? The system is difficult to navigate sometimes because there is a lot of people going through the system. It's hard to do one-on-one analysis of that, whether it's through the family courts or the Child Protective Services. And we help them by first validating that they're important in the life of their children. We look at the fact that they are important in how they participate with the mother of their children. We look at it's important how they participate and parent the child, even when the other parent doesn't feel that they're important or necessary. So the 10 weeks walks them through a process, helps them to understand that they're important and how they can develop a co-parenting relationship, even with somebody that may or may not think that that situation is important. So I'm excited about the class, and it's just we've seen major developments and changes in people through the years. So thank you, Jessica, for that for the introduction.
Great. Thanks very much, Don. Patrick Ortiz is a parent educator with the Children's Shelter in the Compadre program, and that operates in San Antonio. So Patrick, please tell us more about your program and how you address co-parenting.
There you go. I think I'm ready. Thank you, Dr. Pearson. Thank you, Dr. Osborne, for the invitation today. As Dr. Pierce said, I'm Patrick Ortiz. I was the educator, but now I'm the director of the program.
Oh dear, I apologize.
No, thank you. It takes me back. Compadre is a fatherhood program with the Children's Shelter in San Antonio. Compadre means friend in Spanish. Compadre was created with seed money from the United Way in San Antonio and in partnership with the Children's Shelter to address the gap in parenting services that work with fathers or male caregivers of children. For more than a decade, Compadre has served fathers who, for the most part, over 90%, 85 to 90% of the time have an open CPS case. Compadre, what we do at Compadre, we build upon the strengths of the father, and we peel back the layers of their experience as children and address at times the intergenerational trauma experienced by parents who are often perpetrating the trauma without even knowing they are causing undue harm to their children when it may be far too late, right? So Compadre also is a secondary prevention program with our curriculum. It's Nurturing Fathers by Mark Perlman. Parent educators, which are male instructors, teach English and Spanish 15-week increments every 2 hours a week. This helps trust with the father and the parent educator, and it helps cultivate the environment of learning and empowerment. And so the holistic approach that we use at Compadre ends with the graduation and progress to the Compadre Mentor Program, and that is a key. The Compadre Mentor Program, once they're done with their 15 weeks, the Mentor Program extends the learning on how to advocate for your children and how to effectively advocate at home as a father. And so for some fathers, this was the first time they experienced a graduation. For others, maybe the beginning of reunification process to reunite with their children. Working with fathers, our Compadres is at the core of what we do, and we believe in looking through the experience with a trauma-informed care lens and to better address their immediate and long-term needs. It's not only them as an individual, but they as the father to their children. And how do we incorporate co-parenting? It's very important. We help, our classes help identify elements of successful teamwork and apply them to co-parenting with spouses or their partners. We help them practice new skills of negotiation, conflict resolution, cooperative problem solving. We help them practice utilizing a lot of these methods for dividing parenting tasks. And of course, one of the main things is that we help discuss those special issues in fathering. For example, divorce, stepfathering. How does stepfathering come into this equation when they're not your biological children, but you have to address certain issues. You have to communicate. You have to, deal with certain things. Single fathering and then also grandfathering. These are issues these are elements that we provide. Again, co-parenting is really, it's not a term that people usually hear until after they get separated. But, in the truth, co-parenting is the ideal way to co-parent. And when you co-parent, it doesn't necessarily mean that you're separated. It's that you are empowering and encouraging each other to seek the needs of the children and to work together as a team so that the success of the child and the family could be effective in our community.
Okay, thank you, Patrick. So now we're going to move into sort of a discussion for a while, and please put your own questions in the chat function, and we will get back to those towards the end of this program, of this session, and will have a chance to pose them to Patrick and Don. But I want to ask both of you whether you engage mothers in your co-parenting intervention, and if so, why, and how do you do it? What's been your experience with that? So what about you, Patrick? Why don't you start us off? How do you engage moms?
Yes, well, our engagement it's further down along in the program. When the fathers come into the program, we help them deal with their issues first, their trauma first. We help them go through their process of healing and behavior modification, and we address these issues because they're at the moment when these gentlemen come in, they do not understand co-parenting. They're upset. They feel embarrassed. They feel rejected, and so they need work on. They need help. Further down the program, we address many of these co-parenting issues, and when they finish our program and they enter the mentor program, that's when we started incorporating many of these techniques, many of these workshops with mom. But at the same time, we also help. As dad is following the 15-week curriculum with Compadre, we also have a program called iParent that parallels, and mom could also join. And so as mom is taking the iParent class, dad's taking the Compadre class, by the time they both finish, they could both join the mentor program, and that's when more dynamics are used. I know this last year, pandemic pushed us back a few, it pushed us back tremendously because we were really picking up steam on what we're doing with families, with moms and dads. So we're hoping to pick that up pretty soon, at the end of the summer, and trying to address these issues, because again, we understand that if we only work with half of the problem, you only get half of the solution. And so we need to work together to build this.
Okay. Don, how do you do mother engagement, or do you do it?
Yes, we do. While the dads are taking the Focus for Fathers class, the moms are taking Focus for Mothers class. One of the things that's important is it's not just the mother and the father; it's the mother, the father, and the children. Because there's the interaction of the group is so important, and as a part of what Focus does, they learn throughout the week. They learn from the curricula, and then as they go out through the week, they practice what they learned. They receive a call from the instructor. How's it going? How did the interaction with your child go? How did the interaction with the mother of your child go? And so we do a dynamic debrief so that they can get feedback and be reinforced with what is going on. Even in the short 4-hour class, there's a moms and a dads class that encourages and strengthens interaction, but also develops and keeps a safety protocol in place in case there's domestic violence or something like that.
Okay. What is it difficult to engage mothers? I mean, who does the outreach? What's said? Is there, you meet with skepticism or resistance, or I'm not the problem? Why should I don't need to learn how to parent? What do you find that, Don?
Actually, no. We actually have a waiting list for the moms. Part of the situation is with the Child Protective Services or the family courts, either one. A lot of times it's a part of the court order, so they're required to. However, we do have several volunteers. We engage them at the beginning. As soon as we find out about them, we call. And it's not about, you need to do this program. It's about, how are you doing? How's your child doing? And engage them at the point of the personal level. What are the challenges? So that we listen to them, understand what they're going through, and give them hope and explain to them that this program is something that's going to help them and their child. And if they have a difficult co-parent, to be able to help them to deal with the difficult co-parent.
Okay. And Patrick, what about you? As moms part of the intervention, or are they in a parallel intervention? How does it work?
Well,
And
I'm sorry.
go
Again,
ahead.
like I said, it parallels, but usually the we don't recruit moms. It's funny how when these men really take a change in their lives and they start talking about what they're learning in class, how they are really putting these things into practice, then mom starts inquiring and asking about services. They start asking, okay, so what can we do together? And again, before COVID, we were starting to gather a support group of wives within our mentor program of wives that are seeing the results, that are seeing the changes, and they want to support the husband. Many times, that's what is needing. It's what's happening is dads or men just keep telling moms that, hey, I'm going to change, I'm going to change, I'm going to change. It's going to happen, but it never does. But when it actually does, these moms are really, really excited about the possibilities of success. And so they start coming around and we start plugging them in and connecting with them and having them present, because I think that's very important, but again, we don't recruit moms. It's more of a of them coming in on their own as they see changes in their husbands.
Okay. Do you just, is the outreach made by a female? If you do talk, female facilitator, or and the intervention, do you have, or is it co-facilitated by male and female?
Well, usually these support groups, it's more of a support group of how they can help and facilitate certain activities.
Okay.
But the facilitation of whatever classes would be from an educator of the iParent. iParent is the program that usually has more moms come into the that program, and we usually have a female educator that helps with these sessions. But again, we were barely starting to really take ground on that because we're all male program, but we really started to hone in on it, and we just started to giving it more and more and more attention. And so moms really want to be a part of this. They're saying, my husband is really connected and committed and wants to be a part of this program and part of this mentorship. How can I support him? And I think that's real key in a relationship is finding the ideal denominator between them two, and they both can work together. And so that's
okay. Don, do you have any thing to add on how you staff the intervention and who facilitates?
Well, with the moms classes, we have female instructors, we have female engagement, and that, so it's moms reaching to moms, and so it's very, very effective. And that a lot of our facilitators are graduates of the program. And one of our great stories is how one of the moms that went through finished her master's and is licensed master social worker, and she is a facilitating, but she was a student, and then she was a mentor, then she was an intern, and so she's done a lot in that area. Diane Davis, the head of the Moms Focus class, she is amazing, absolutely amazing lady.
Okay.
So I couldn't say enough.
Okay. So what kind of outcomes have you seen now that you've been doing this? Are there some outcomes that you measure in your evaluations, post-program assessments, or anecdotal things? What is the result?
Are you taking with the moms program or the dads program? Well,
I guess co-parenting for fathers and for both. I mean, what do you assess and what do you see?
Well, we are having a lot of success. Let me pull up my statistics here so that I can show. Let me reach down here. Before class, we're showing a lot of change. Like one of the questions, we do a pre and post survey. I can control my actions and attitudes instead of trying to control other people and situations. We are getting at least a 30 to 40% shift there to the positive. Another question, I have the ability to respond calmly to conflict between myself and my child's mother. We're seeing another large, like 46% shift there. And we could go on and on
Okay,
with the data, and we do a pre and post, plus we have
Okay.
anecdotal inputs too. I believe that I copied you on that, and you have that data there in front of you.
right, right. And what about you, Patrick? What kind of outcomes are you shooting for, and what are you seeing?
We actually used to service the adolescent and adult parenting inventory with our family nurturing curriculum, and we also use a protective factor survey. We are seeing that many of these, the results is that they're understanding the dynamics in the family. They're understanding how things like for example, in my family, we talk about problems and they start seeing when they get there as a hey, we never used to do this, but now, hey, we're starting to do this because we're learning these new skills. We're learning how to communicate. We're learning how to problem solve. And that's what I believe moms are really connecting with dads now, because communication is now a part of their relationship when it wasn't. It's a skill that they have to learn,
Yeah.
Good communication, trust, reliability, clear roles, mutual respect, support, cooperation. These are the things that they both have to agree on. And when dad is really committed and doing these things through his services, he goes home and practices them, because we are big on homework. What did you learn? What did you do? How did you practice the skill?
Mhm.
And so they give us that feedback. Oh, my kids loved it. Oh, my wife, I had a date night, and this is how we communicated. This is how we are working with our kids. This is how we are teaming up, because the main thing is teamwork, and this is how we're teaming up to build our family and to help our family grow.
And let's talk a little bit about safety. How does domestic violence education, awareness, and prevention fit into your co-parenting approach? How do you address it, and what advice do you have for your fellow programs in the audience? Why don't you start, Patrick?
Thank you for that question. We like I said before, we usually we are a program that thrives on 85 to 90% of our referrals or enrollments are coming from DFPS. However, this past year, due to the pandemic and really everything shutting down, we saw an uptick in our domestic violence referrals, that they've gone up to half of our enrollments. And so we had to address many issues having to do with that in a virtual setting and deal with many of these topics. Domestic violence, communication, we had to really get these points across. Many times our educators had to do one-on-ones, because these men were mandated to take these classes or go to jail, because they need help. I mean, they can't go back into the home until they figure these things out. So we are helping these men connect and try to get these things settled in, because if we can't, I can't teach them parenting skills if I can't teach them skills of self-awareness, self-protection, if I can't teach them who they are and pretty much help them build themselves as who they are as fathers, as men, as leaders. They're not going to be able to be a great father if they don't understand who they are and their purpose and their responsibilities. And of course, they're not going to be a great husband or a great partner if they don't understand, again, their identity and their goals in life. And so those are the things that we're trying to connect with them, so that they can connect with their wives or with their children.
Don, are you on?
Yes. Yes,
Okay, your camera's okay. What about you? Let's talk about how you address domestic violence issues in the context of co-parenting, and the advice you give to your fellow programs in the audience.
Well, first of all, what I want to say is we meet it head on. We help people, both men and women, to understand that what a healthy relationship looks like. We start in week one understanding what a healthy relationship looks like. It permeates through each week. Week 5, we talk about. We actually get the Duluth wheels out. You know what a healthy relationship, what a domestic violence relationship looks like. We talk about power and control. We talk about that because it's important, whether these men or women are the receiver of domestic violence or the perpetrator of domestic violence. They need to know better and understand and be held accountable so that they can do better. And you have to talk about it. You have to understand, talk to them and understand that if you try to control other people, that is abuse. And so we look at what the alternative to trying to control other people looks like. Working from your strength, your own attitudes, your own actions, and how that will actually get you closer to what you're hoping and wanting if you try to control your own actions and your own attitude, which will develop in being able to influence others instead of trying to control them. And that creates peace. That creates a safe parenting environment. That creates an environment where co-parenting is possible. And so it's absolutely vital. And we talk about it from the beginning. And it's just the cornerstone of everything that we do. If there's no safety, there is no trust. And without trust, there is no relationship.
Finally, what I'm interested in exploring with you a little bit about this dynamic of programs where people are so heavily involved with the court and the system. How does that affect the dynamic in the co-parenting relationship? Sounds like you might have more compulsion, might get more participation on some level, but does it present other challenges? Patrick, what's your take on that?
I believe it does present different challenges because then there's boundaries, there's protective orders. If there is violence in the home or child abuse, it means that the kids are not there and they would have to work things out on their own in order for them to get the children. But there are so many factors, especially dealing with court, because again, during COVID, it really affected many fathers, many households. Many people lost their jobs. Many people lost, they were on the brink of losing their home. And it one of the things that, and I heard it yesterday during the conference, is that one of the things that really was revealed is the need for mental health services, the need to intervene and to help our clients and our families really thrive through their trauma and everything they've been through the year. But yes, I mean it's everything under the sun regarding child support, visitation, orders, custody agreements, all of that, housing stability, all of that plays a big role in this. And of course, having another agency in the midst, telling them, Dad, you have to take this, and that. Oh, and by the way, Dad, you have to do it in so much time, and you have to have a full-time job. And so these are stressors that stress the family. And that's when if people do not have great coping skills, they're going to hurt themselves or hurt someone else. Yes.
Don, do you want to add anything to that about court and agency involvement versus non?
Yes, thank you. One of the things that I think part of that question is behind the scenes. You may be able to get them there, but are they really participatory in that? And the answer to that would be yes, because, and that is the way you engage these parents. You engage them on the personal level. You care about them as individuals. That's absolutely important. the first class, they come in angry. They're, I don't need to be here, et cetera, et cetera. But it's important that from the beginning, we give them voice to be able to say, this is not fair. All these things, and care about them as individuals. And it's amazing. I wish I could just carry you into one of the classes for week one, because by the time that they're done with week one, they're already saying, this is not what I thought it was going to be. I thought you were just going to tell me I'm a bad dad and I need to do this and I need to do that. Instead, what they hear is compassion, acceptance, concern, and commitment to them, because we're asking them to commit time to us. We are committing to them that we're going to be engaged in them, we're going to care about them, and we're going to call them at least once a week.
Great. Well, that ties very nicely into a question from Megan, who wants to know what are the biggest misconceptions you experience about the programs you offer, from the families that you serve or from your colleagues. And you alluded to that, Don, when you said they just think that we're going to tell them that they're bad parents. Why don't you talk about misconceptions and that for a minute?
Thank you. Whether it's a mom or a dad, whichever class it is, they think they've been sent to a bad dad's or a bad mom's class. And the first thing we say is, we don't know who you are. We assume that you love your children, or you wouldn't be in this class. Because there's a lot of people that are court ordered to stuff that never show up, and they're showing up. So we assume that they love their children. We assume that they want the best for their children. And it's amazing how that melts them. Just, you mean you're not treating me like I'm a number? You're not treating me like I'm just a thing? No, because they're a human being that's trying the best they can.
Yeah. Patrick, you're sort of nodding. Is that the biggest misconception you come across?
Yes, I'm going to echo what Don said. They sometimes think that taking a parenting class is a punishment, and they're being punished for being sent there. Yeah. And they again, it's men they come in with their guard up and very insecure and afraid, full of fears. And so by the third, fourth week, they start realizing that we are not their enemy. We're not there to hurt them. Part of our enrollment and part of our intake packet is that we don't ask whoever referred them. We don't ask for 2085, which is the FPS a common application. We don't ask anything about who they are and what they've done in the past. We want them to come in just as they are, and so that they could feel accepted, feel like, hey, this is a place where nobody knows me, and I could share openly, and I could be me. And many times that's the space that they need. They need a space for them to be themselves for a minute, and for them to just be heard, for them to someone to listen, and for, as Don says, someone to care.
We don't have other questions right now in the queue, but I want to ask a question. I mean, there's some fear that if you get mothers involved with co-parenting in your programs and you start doing more service that involves mothers, then somehow it erodes the identity of a program as a fatherhood program and a program for fathers. How do you balance that? Have you come up with that? Is that a challenge, or is that just something that I've dreamed of?
No, I don't think it's a challenge. I think many times it merits that we deal with one person, especially the person that is needing the services first. We've had a program a while back where it was moms and dads that were able to send us a parenting program for families, and we just realized that mom was really hijacking the conversation. Mom had all the answers, had everything, and hey, sir, how about your opinion? Hey, well, she said it all. And so I believe that misconception of like, hey, I want to have a voice. Many dads say, I want to have a voice. and and they feel that in a big group setting with somebody that knows them, they're going to feel embarrassed. They're going to feel that they don't have a voice, and they're not going to want to share things of how they feel, what their emotions and their feelings are going through. But for the most part, I think it's working well where we start adding them at our second program when dad's already understanding some skills. He's already practicing skills, and he's in a good place with mom so that they could both partake in these activities.
Okay, and what's your thought, Don, about the threat to fatherhood programs' identity with engagement of mothers, and if that becomes more of a prominent feature of fatherhood programming?
Well, thank you for asking. The way we've approached it, we have a masculine program and we have a feminine program, because I know this comes as a shock, but men and women aren't the same. A lot of times you ask a man how he feels and he looks like as if you have 3 or 4 eyes. But if you ask him what he thinks, he's going to tell you. And by the way, what he thinks is how he feels. He just doesn't connect that. And so we present this in a masculine format. We challenge them in a masculine way so that they feel safe in their environment. That's why we do the Focus for Mothers in a separate class with female participants, female facilitators. We do men's focus in a male facilitator with male participants, and they feel heard and they have a voice. So it's not a problem at all because we respect the differences, but we meet the challenges head on in the different environments.
Okay. We have, I guess in closing, you have thoughts about really the chief benefits of teaching co-parenting skills?
The co-parenting skills, I mean, it's amazing to see men come alive. It's amazing to see their children beam in that. And the mothers then responding with, I didn't think he could be this way. Maybe he's not whatever their preconception was. And it gives them permission to speak. It gives the child permission to love both mother and father. The stress is released off of the child. You see the child thrive, and it's amazing. I guess that's why I'm still doing it after 18 years.
Great. And Patrick, your closing remarks about why bother?
Because again, it benefits the family, it increases sense of security and self-worth within the kids and the family. Decreases a lot of stress and anxiety, and of course it exposes respectful problem solving within the family. And I believe every family has these skills. They just have to be brought out. And there's amazing parenting programs in our state and in different parts of the United States that have these programs for those families. And please, I mean, there's families that need us. There's families that need these programs. There's families that need, they're at the verge of the brink of just breaking it. And so we need to help these families co-parent. And again, it takes two. It takes two to do this together.
Okay, well, thank you both so very much. And thanks for focusing on this very important topic in this conference. And it's been a pleasure. I'm going to turn it back to Cynthia. And I appreciate the opportunity to chat about this.
Well, thank you, Jessica, and thank you, Don and Patrick. It was just really important to hear what you guys are doing in your programs. And it's not simple, but we know that our fathers really value this. We know that at the end of the day, the children really benefit from all that you're doing, and the engagement that you have with those who participate in your program